Today I'm going to show you a comp that's been played professionally in a Taiwanese tournament, like a very huge Taiwanese tournament, and then after we saw it many times in the Golden Spatula Cup for Europe, and also in the KDA Cup for NA. So today I'm going to tell you exactly how to play Seraphine reroll. You will see that this comp is really straightforward and rather easy to play. So let's get to it. So just to make sure, like I'm not saying bullshit stuff. The idea is like you want to play Seraphine 3 stars with at least 2 items, because obviously you have the super fan item on her, and then the win condition you will see is to play 7 KDA. This is really important because with 7 KDA you have a huge top 4 win rate and a great top first place win rate, even though like it's not free win, but you can assume that most of the time you finish 4th, and that's going to be positive LP gains. So to talk about this comp, as usual, I'm going to use Tactor. I already wrote the guide. You can see it as a cheat sheet where I show everything I'm going to talk about this comp in this video. So you have the board, you have the game plan I'm going to describe a little bit later, the level 6 stabilization, best items for Seraphine, and most importantly, the augments that you want to play. So if you're interested in going there, having a cheat sheet instead of watching or rewatching the video, you can simply click on the link in the description and also put a like. That would help me quite a lot if you could. So to give you a better screen, the idea is to play 7 KDA, I just said earlier. And obviously you want to play with Seraphine, and the best headliner is obviously KDA, because that way it's just easier to reach 7 KDA. The idea behind this is to have Seraphine as a great unit, but don't expect Seraphine to one-shot the whole fight or to be the solo carry. She's going to be a great damage dealer, a great anti-heal applier, and she's going to also to heal your team. So this is why Seraphine, you have to see it as someone who deals a good amount of damage, but heals quite a lot as well. And that's why she's going to lack damage in the very late game, because obviously she can't be one-shotting people while also healing full life your team. It would be too OP. This is why, on the other hand, you want to have 2 KDA as your side carry. The best one obviously is Ari, because she's a spellweaver, so she's going to benefit from the spellweaver and all the AP that they're going to accumulate. And then obviously if you have AD stuff and you don't know what to do, you will give that to Akali, who's also going to be a great side carry. I also suggest you, if you can, to try to go for Nico 3. She's going to be a great tank, and especially with Seraphine's heal, she's almost going to be unkillable if the fights are quite long. So now you know how the late game looks like. We want to talk about how you plan your game to get to that point, because obviously you don't start the game and you don't have this board as stage 4 just because you don't know how to play. You have to have this board maybe as stage 4, but only if you know exactly how to play it. So let's talk about the game plan. The first thing you want to consider is, well, you have the high roll game plan and the normal game plan, right? The high roll game plan is like you have super fan and Seraphine headliner as stage 2, you have perfect item and you don't even need to roll or anything, you can just like win streak that way. This will mainly not happen. This is why I don't think I should describe this game plan, but rather I would like to give you the 95% game plan that you will use most of the time, basically. The idea is like during stage 2, you want to make sure that you are not too strong. In fact, you want to optimize your economies by not pushing your levels, by not losing gold interest. Really important to reach the 10 gold, 20 gold cap as fast as possible, and basically tank the losses and plan your comeback as stage 3-2. This is what you will mostly do. During stage 2, while you scout to make sure like you're losing fight, you also scout to make sure that there are no other people playing it or forcing it, because obviously this is going to be a tough comp to play if you're contested, even though it's not impossible because it's a 2-cost reward, not a 3-cost, but you know, it's not going to be that easy because there are only 20 Seraphine in the pool, meaning that if someone already has Seraphine 3, you have very low chances to find the last Seraphine that you need. Okay, now let's talk about stage 3-2. Stage 3-2 is one of the most important stage, and I think this is where it's the stage where you can make the most mistakes with this comp. But doesn't mean that the comp is hard to play. It's just like if there is one stage where you can make mistakes, I would say is a stage 3. So let's say you started with a loss streak, right? You maximize your economy, good. Now during stage 3-2, you need to be level 6, but you also have to stop this bleeding, because if you keep bleeding, you will lose the game before you do anything. So what you're going to do is to roll. You will roll at level 6 to have a 2-star frontline, really, really important. Lilia 2, Kennen 2, Nico 2 is actually even better, but sometimes you don't find it, and it's okay if you don't find it. Echo 1, but Echo 2 would be nice as well, obviously. And you're going to roll until you find Seraphine Headliner. So the thing is, I said earlier that Seraphine KDA is the best headliner, but if during stage 3-2 you find Seraphine Headliner with Spellweaver, you still have to pick her because obviously you need to play with this board so you don't lose fights again and again and you simply lose too much health. So this is an example of level 6 stabilization in case you have KDA, but if you have also Spellweaver, it doesn't really matter because in the end you can't really reach 5 KDA or you can't really reach 5 Spellweaver at level 6, but what's really important is to have 2-star on almost everything, having at least a mana generation item on Seraphine. She will get the Rabbanon from Superfan, so she will have 2 items, and that way you can also serve already your side carry. So here, for instance, Lulu can be a great item holder for Ahri. So from this point, you have multiple choices, and that's really up to your game, to how you contested. Let's say you are not contested. What I really like to do, if you're not contested and you're winning all your fights, because this board is really strong, honestly, during stage 3, what you can do is to rebuild your economy up to 50 gold, and then after push level 7, where at level 7 you will slow roll. This is really interesting because as you can see when you're level 7, it's really easy to put 5 KDA or 5 Spellweaver depending on Seraphine's headliner. This way you have a much better board and you will still win fights during stage 4, so you have all the time you need to reroll for Seraphine, but also you have much more chances to find Akali and Ahri. This is kind of similar to Jax EDM, how we used to play it. Even though it's a reroll on the 2 costs with Jax, we would still prefer to be level 7 to reroll because you have more chance to find Zac and Zed and Lux. So here at level 7 you have more chances to find Nico, because obviously Nico 3 is also a win condition if you can have it, Akali, Ahri, and you still have great odds to find Seraphine 3. So really don't hesitate to push level 7 if you want to reroll. However, if you are contested, that's another matter. If you are contested on Seraphine, it's best to stay level 6 and reroll for Seraphine 3, because if you take too much of your time to push level 7, the other guy will have all the time he wants to find Seraphine 3, and you will be level 7 with almost no chance to find Seraphine 3. So that's the only situation where you have to reroll at level 6. And then once you're level 7 and you found Seraphine 3, you have 2 things to do. First of all, if you had the Seraphine Spellweaver, you can decide, once you have like 6-7 Seraphine in total, to sell your headliner and then reroll a lot of gold until you find Seraphine KDA. Because obviously if you had the Seraphine Spellweaver, the next Seraphine headliner you will find in your shop will be 100% Seraphine KDA. It's always like this. You can't have Spellweaver and Spellweaver 2 times in a row. And obviously once you found that, what you want to do is to push level 8, because at level 8 this is where you can unlock the 7 KDA. So now let's talk about the items. The items are kind of easy to figure out, honestly. Since you already have a Rabbanon thanks to your Superfan, you only need to have 2 items to consider. First one is a mana generation item. So Spear of Shojin or Blue Buff, or even Adaptive Helm, quite similar. Shojin may be a little bit better than Blue Buff, but honestly, it doesn't matter that much. The only thing I would say is, like, usually you like to keep your tiers to also give mana generation to Lulu, who is going to be your next Ahri. So this is why, like, usually you do Spear of Shojin instead of Blue Buff, which is kind of hard to find. But that's pretty much it. And then the third item you want, after mana generation and Rabbanon, is a mix of damage, support or utility if you prefer, and attack speed. But there's only one item that covers the 3 of them. It's Morello. It gives attack speed, gives utility because you have anti-heal, and it gives a little bit of AP. So it's kind of perfect. But if you don't have it, once again, don't be scared. You can have Natural Tooth, attack speed, a lot more attack speed and damage. But you also have Archangel, which is significantly more damage, but no attack speed, no utility. And you can also have Red Buff, attack speed and utility. Doesn't have a lot of AP, so you lack a bit of damage. But once again, the idea is like not necessarily having the best of the best items on Seraphine, because she's not going to be the one-shot carry during the late game. She's going to be the one that will give a lot of heal, a lot of utility, and a lot of AoE damage. So really don't focus too much on having the best item on Seraphine. So now I want to talk about augments. About the augments, there are a couple of things you want to know. Is most of the time when you play this comp, it's best to have 3 combat augments because it's a comp that has a lot of stats thanks to KDA. You know, like all the KDA units get tons of stats. So if you have more stats, it just multiplied basically. That's pretty much why this comp can be so good with a lot of combat augments or item augments. So let's talk about them. The first combat augment I really love in this comp, and I think this is the only comp that uses the whole value of cybernetic uplink, is KDA. Because obviously, well, you have more health, so everything is multiplied by KDA, but also like you have more mana and you play Spellweavers, you play a lot of utility units like Aris, Seraphine, Nico. All these units really like to cast again and again and again. So if you start with cybernetic uplink, think of Seraphine basically. Then you have a couple others I really like. Remember your roots because you play 7 KDA, so all your KDA has much more health and attack speed. Then we have Infusion, kind of similar to cybernetic uplink, but maybe slightly less good. And then you have Do It For The Fans. Actually, it's really good because Seraphine will deal huge AoE damage and she will heal even more your super fan. So if you have something like Nico 3, she is going to be almost unkillable, I'll be honest. Then after, you really want to have also more items because this comp has a lot of scaling potential since you can have Nico 3 with 3 items, you can have Akali with 3 items, you can have Seraphine with 3 items, you can have Ari with 3 items. So having more items is actually nice, especially if you can stuff all these side carries to win the late game fights. And things like Binary, Unleashed Arcana, Buried Treasures, Caretaker's Chosens. And then after you have a couple of Econ augments, which I said that Econ augments aren't that great, but there are a couple of them which are okay to consider if you want to force Seraphine. So, but then after you have these two, Drake Sector and Stars Are Born, I would say these are choices by default if you have only bad augments next to them. I'm not sure these are really great, but I feel like they can help you have your board very early. But it means that if you pick those two, you really need to have this setup very late game with Nico 3, Seraphine 3, and these two carries, because otherwise you will lack a bit of damage. Then after, what I really like to have is Shopping Spree, March of Progress, Cruel Pact, and Go Long, because these augments will help you to be level 6 and level 7 very easily, and with tons of gold or tons of free rolls, depending on what you picked. This way you can more or less guarantee to have your 3-star Seraphine as level 6, and then after you can easily push level 7 and then easily find Ari, Akali, this kind of stuff. So basically at the end of the day, try not to force this comp every single time. I suggest you to consider this comp if you see the augments I showed you in stage 2-1 and you have, let's say, a tier and a road on your bench after the first PvE rounds. And that way you can try to play this comp multiple times and you'll see that this comp is kind of easy to play and easy to finish 4th or better with it. Maybe a little bit hard to finish first, but honestly it has a lot of potential and it's hard to lose with this comp, so it's hard to lose points, league points, if you are playing in ranked. I already shared this comp in my private Discord, and if you want to have access to it, you have to be a member of this YouTube channel. It also helps me to make this kind of content, to produce more and more videos, and I do my best to help you to climb in my private Discord. If you're interested in this, you also have the link in the description. Otherwise, if you feel like you're a bit stuck in your games, I highly recommend this video where I give you the one method that will help you identify your weaknesses in TFT and how to cover them so you can climb master. Until then, see you in the next video.